Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
So, 5 years ago this week, I was in Mimi Ito's office. You may not remember this. This is a true story. And I was explaining to Mimi why it's so important for me to teach people how to search. And she said to me, Dan, you don't understand. It's like teaching people how to turn on the light switch. Do you remember this? Yeah. You have succeeded, your company has succeeded in making search boring. Get over it. And I thought, in my usual suave and literate and sophisticated way, I said, but, and now I have an answer. It only took 5 years. And the answer is that there are a lot of capabilities in search that people don't realize, and so I want to help you be a smarter person through the mechanism of our cognitive amplifier called Google, right? So what I do now is I help teachers understand how to search more intelligently. So this is me, way in the front of that room, teaching a whole pack of teachers the intricacies and the beauty of doing search in a way that uses some of, there's this myth that we use 10% of our brain. The truth is you use 10% of Google. Let me tell you the other 90%, right? And so this is what I do. So I do a lot of this kind of training. If you're in Palo Alto during the month of January, I'm teaching every Thursday night. Come to the Mitchell Park Library. So one of the things I do is I teach people this thing that you think everybody knows. How many of you have ever searched for text in an electronic document? Raise your hand, okay? 10% of you are lying, okay? And the reason I know this is because this is Command F, that is Control F, depending on how you swing, okay? And if you go to a document like this and say, how long did it take me to run this race? I know because I do experiments. I know that it takes some people a lot longer. So here's a nice sample size. This is the response time in seconds, okay? In seconds. That means there are still people searching for how long it took me to run that race after 300 seconds. What are they doing? That's 5 minutes, right? I mean, think about it. What's really fascinating, though, to me is that when you look at the people who took more than 2 minutes, a quarter of them are wrong. This is for a trivial problem. It is not trying to understand the relationship of Palestine to Israel, right? This is just trying to figure out how long it took me to run this 8K race. So that fascinates me, and it tells me we have a long way to go. Because when I did this big survey, 90% of US English-speaking internet users do not know this. What's more, half of all teachers in the United States don't know this. Your teachers in your school, your kids' teachers, right? They don't know this, okay? Analysis of 50K Firefox users, 93% have never done this. Really? How do you function? Reading electronic documents and not knowing how to find a text string, right? There are people that you know who have written books that you have read that are in your classes that do not know this. It floored me. So this is why I teach. Because there's so many things to know. And one of the things I do is I go around and I teach a lot of people the various tools that we have, right? Control F is sort of the simplest one. It works for everything. I'm telling you now, if you don't know this, it works in PowerPoint, works in Acrobat, works in Firefox, works in Chrome, works everywhere. And a lot of people don't know that. So one of the things I do is I go around and teach people things like how to use Google Translate or how to use, spreadsheets or whatever, right? And it's fascinating to me to realize that the depth of ignorance is astonishing. It's just astonishing. So one of the things I do is, like I said, I teach a lot of teachers, but I also keep my hand in by going to schools. And so not very far away from here is Foster City. And for people who are not from here, Foster City is about halfway down the peninsula. It's a super diverse school district, right? You have 30 kids in a classroom. You have 30 different languages spoken at home. Farsi, Hebrew, German, you name it, there's a kid in that class. So I went and taught Miss Wong's 4th grade class, computer skills class, right? And they're mostly learning Excel and Control F and things like that. So I went and taught, and one of the things I taught, since the classroom language space was so diverse, I taught them how to use Google Translate. Makes sense, right? And so since this was a 4th grade class, 2 weeks later, I get a package of thank you notes from the class. You know, it's very sweet, right? Thank you, Dr. Russell, for showing us how to use Google Translate. And the best one was from this little boy named Armando, who said, thank you for showing me how to use Google Translate, because now I can write letters to my grandmother in Honduras. See, his parents don't want him to know Spanish. It's a downwardly mobile language for his family. So I taught him this one little trick that allows him to write letters to his abuelita in Honduras. And that made me incredibly happy. Thank you.
Okay. Mimi. A story about you and then a talk by you. That was not actually planned.
I wouldn't put that past you, Liv. So it's been about 25 years since we've started to try to engineer digital environments to support learning for kids. And I haven't been following it for quite that long, but almost that long. And what I found is that a lot of the scripts, the genres that we use to do this are incredibly resilient over that time. So back in the day when I was doing my dissertation research, it was titles like Jumpstart. Does anybody, I don't know, you guys weren't tracking this back then. So, you know, this is about achievement anxiety, about, you know, standardized curriculum, fairly top down. And today we have Khan Academy. And then back then we had like Putt-Putt's Great Adventure, Pajama Sam. I don't know if you guys remember these. Today you have most of the apps that kids play with on iPads. And then every once in a while you have something like SimCity, which breaks the genre between those very resilient categories of entertainment versus education that structure most of kids' experiences with anything that might be considered family-friendly or learning software. And SimCity isn't the only one, obviously. Like, if you're old enough to remember logo programming, and today we have Scratch. I'll give a shout out to Scratch because Andreas is in the room. Or, I don't know, do folks know Little Big Planet? It's one of the better ones out there. And then DIY.org. So there have historically been these titles that live in the space between entertainment and education that tend to have a very loyal but relatively small following, and that enables kids to not only have fun but learn stuff, and ideally learn stuff in the context of problem solving and making stuff and things that a lot of progressive educators care about. So what makes Minecraft different in this lineage? And so, I don't know, you guys probably all follow this, the $2.5 billion acquisition by our very own Microsoft. And this is Notch's house. He bought a $70 million home, the most expensive home in Beverly Hills. It's rumored that he beat out Jay-Z and Beyonce for this house. And the greatest thing is the candy wall, of course. So part of what makes Minecraft different is that Notch is a rock star, right? So we have never had a title in this genre before that has achieved this level of success. I mean, of course, Minecraft is the most successful indie game of all time, but you know, all of us who have loved SimCity and these other titles, suddenly we've been handed an opportunity that's never existed before, in the sense that this is a game that is not only in the constructivist, progressive, all of those things that, you know, us left-leaning progressive educators care about, but that kids are playing at a massive scale. And in fact, I think one could argue that Notch is probably the only game designer ever that kids know their name, like an average kid. Ask a 12-year-old, ask a 14-year-old, do you know the name of a game designer? This is the only game that they'll be able to come up with the name of the designer. So it's epic, right? For those of us in our space, this is a tectonic shift in our opportunity space for using digital games or digital media in general to support not the drill and practice, content-focused stuff, not the, oh, it's keeping our kid busy while we're having dinner stuff, but the stuff that those of us who care about creativity and problem solving for kids might actually want to support and be able to leverage, not just for our own children, but for regular kids who aren't part of the tech elites in the creative class. So that's what's exciting about Minecraft and why you can ask Lily or Andreas or Lars. We've been running a Minecraft camp, and this is just an example of, you know, the kind of learning that kids are getting, which is not only about them making stuff, which is great, but also about the social learning and civic engagement and learning to get along with others and learning community organizing that we get in the open internet.
Okay, I'm going to apologize ahead of time because my slides are the least pretty ones here, and it's because a lot of the work that I'm talking about was taking place in really boring Excel files and purchase orders and Taobao shopping pages, and none of those things are very pretty. But so I'm going to start off by telling you guys some advice that my dad gave me once, which is that every startup, in order to be successful, needs at least one of its founders to be kind of an asshole. And I used to every now and then tell him about, okay, this friend of mine is starting a startup with a couple of co-founders, and my dad would be like, okay, well, which one of them is the asshole? So when I told him that I was starting one with my co-founder, he didn't ask. So I'm going to give you this caveat, which is that for the most part, I actually really enjoyed my experience manufacturing a hardware product in China. The factory that we did most of our work with was really great. They cared about quality. They taught us how to work with them, and we had a mostly pretty good experience. But I think there's a lot of unbridled optimism in this area, and I really enjoy raining on parades because, see previous slide. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I saw that were just kind of shady and underhanded and dishonest in a few different domains. So the first thing is in prototyping. What's great about being in China when you're prototyping is that you can pick up electronic components super fast from the markets if you're based in Shenzhen. You know, you can basically go across the street and buy yourself some, at Megas. In this case, this happened to a friend of mine where they put together a prototype and mysteriously, for some reason, their PCB was not working. And he lost 2 or 3 days to debugging this thing until he found that there was actually no power coming out of their boost regulator. So he took out that integrated circuit and he super glued it to a little board and he just sanded off all the plastic, basically trying to get to see what was inside. We didn't have an X-ray, so that's normally what you would do. And basically what he found was that he had been sold a chip that was solid plastic, with just a couple of the metal solder points, and that actually this is not the worst possible thing that could happen. The worst thing that could happen is you have a counterfeit that works intermittently, which makes it actually much harder to debug, and then you lose a couple of weeks. So this happens sometimes. It didn't happen to me directly. And the reason it didn't happen to me directly is because we had a sourcing guy that we trusted. And what was great about this guy, he was pretty transparent with us. And so you can see in this column over here that he'll tell us if he's getting us a part that's new and original and gotten all above board through official channels, or if it's refurbished. Does anyone here have a guess as to what he means by refurbished? Yes, it means stolen. So refurbished can mean that someone has taken it off of a board and that it actually is a recycled part. But our guy does not sell us those. He will only sell us stolen products because he is an ethical businessman who wants to make sure that he only sells us things that will work reliably. So we like this guy. We don't buy the refurbished stuff, though. So more sourcing. This is another fun one. So this is from an AliExpress page that a friend of mine found. And I want you to pay very close attention to this because it says it shows 128 gigs and it can save 16 gigs. And this is another kind of fabulous example of like transparency in your shadiness. So this is, I love this quote, cheap must has its reason, cheap must has its cheap reason. So they basically point out that like this is not a full capacity card. It will report as being 128 gigs. It actually has 16 gigs. And if you want it to be that cheap, you better not expect anything different. And that if you actually want something that's better quality, they can also sell you that at a higher price. So what I love about this is that these are not unethical people. They just have a very specific kind of business ethic, which is that you don't screw your immediate customer, but if your customer wants to screw their customer, that's their business. And then you maybe don't pay too close attention to like what your source is doing to get the things they're selling you. But it's actually interesting because there's you want to have a long-term relationship with your clients, and so you treat them well. And so that's kind of what that ethic is based on. So I was really amused by these just sort of transparently shady dealings going on, like in full view on AliExpress. So one thing that happened to us once we got to kind of the manufacturing phase, something that you may hear happen sometimes is that your manufacturer will kind of bait and switch you on price. So these are two versions of the same purchase order. And this was when we were buying some LEDs. We got the quote first in dollars, and they quoted us $1,180. And then we said, oh no, it's we can pay you in RMB. So they sent us another quote that was 8,500 RMB. Okay, so remember the U.S. price. They just kind of tried to hide a price increase in the exchange rate and like hoped we wouldn't notice. And they had an actual reason. There's like a value-added tax. They just didn't want to tell us about it and actually have that discussion. So what I did was there's this technique. So this is we're now getting into like kind of shady things that I've done. Sure. It's not, none of it is that bad. None of it's illegal. So what happened was I just kind of stalled, and didn't tell them anything one way or the other until they'd actually made the batch of LEDs for us and had them boxed up and ready to go for us. And then I said, I'm not paying that extra tax. What do you plan to do? And I actually later read about this. Apparently that's an actual thing that people do. It's called knocking up your factory. Anyway, and this was like a little bit of a risk on my part because it was essentially a commodity product. They probably could have found another buyer for it, but it was just more expedient for them to be like, okay, fine, we won't charge you the tax this time. Just take it, okay? So anyway, so that was not that bad. There's another instance we'd had with a factory where we had sort of gone through. We'd done our tooling with them. They had our molds, which if you don't realize, they're like super heavy and they're pretty expensive. They're very, very hard to move. So you're kind of committed to a factory once you do that. And then once we got to we'd gotten a quote for our first run of injection molded parts. And then when we got to actually doing the purchase order, it ended up costing like twice as much as they quoted us because they added in a bunch of stuff they never mentioned, which was things like surface treatment, packing things up, assembly time, that kind of thing. And that got added by the boss at the very last minute. And it's still unclear to me whether he was actively dishonest or just really disorganized. But at any rate, they basically had us over a barrel, and we couldn't afford the amount that they wanted to increase the per piece price. So what happened was I actually realized at some point during this email exchange, and we were trying to argue them point by point based on like actual rational things, which never works with your factory. Don't do it. I found out that our sales manager was actually really disgruntled because this is something that her boss did all the time. And when that happens, customers get upset and they yell at the sales manager, who has absolutely no control over this kind of thing. And the other thing is the sales managers are usually ladies, in my experience, and their clients are almost always dudes. So I was like a rarity in this situation. So when we went in to have a meeting with these guys, what I did was I said, hey, Julie, I really need to pee and I don't remember where the bathroom is. Can you show me? And so we went and had a little bit of girl talk, and then I pumped her for information, and I found out, because she was pissed off at her boss, here's how much money they're actually making off of you per piece. Here's how much they would have made if they didn't do this price increase. And so I was actually able to negotiate them down and claim that we were going to do a much bigger run with them later, and that really we can make this happen for the long-term relationship. So anyway, so that was just a few of the kind of shady things I've seen, shady things I've done. Fun times. I hope if anyone here is planning to do a manufacturing run of their first product, wait till I have a couple more drinks and then come talk to me.
So I'm shocked, but not that shocked, because a lot of people like to hear about it. So this is how I lost 60 pounds in 9 months, right? The best benefits is that one glass of wine really, really works, I'll tell you, as I can attest to right now. The worst thing is your favorite leather coat that you bought like 7 months ago doesn't really fit in. Now that the doors are closed, I don't really need it, but... All right, so it's, what relates it to the conference, I would say it's, I'm a beta tester for this thing. It's just a little over a year old, and I've been using it for almost a year now. It's freeware. It's an app on Android or iTunes. Social media, it's on Facebook, and it also then forces you to use your iPhone or any phone or your tablet every day to consult it to figure out what you can eat until you understand it. And then after you do lose the weight, it's to learn to now eat, not to lose weight, but to stay healthy and stay where you're at. So this is my low-tech presentation. It's called BioFit, which is right here. The doctor invented it is Jeff Dunham, Harvard-trained doctor, MIT PhD in it's about low glycol science. Helps people with cancer, diabetes, heart disease as well. Go ahead, there's the next one. So here's the low tech, just some architect print here. So BioFit, 60 pounds. So look, this is the tenets, and we all know these things, right? The science, I won't talk about. I'll talk about how to do it. I'll give some stories, but we'll start with first the story. So a year ago on my birthday, a friend showed up. I hadn't seen him in 5 months, and he was like 60 pounds lighter. Yeah, he did it hardcore. He went to a doctor. Wasn't feeling good. He had hit 50 years old. And the doctor made him strip like a normal physical, except he didn't take his measurements or check anything. He just grabbed him by the shoulder and turned him around into a mirror and said, here you go, 50 is the hill. Everything is downhill from there. Is this the mountain you want to start the rest of your life at? So, and that was the motivation for him. He had no app. He had to just use the doctor's recommendations and the math and paper for that. But then the app showed up right before my birthday, and when I saw him, 3 weeks later we had lunch, and he gave me the free app, and it changed my life. I've tried some other things, and we all, I wasn't really fat. When I say 60 pounds, it sounds like a lot, but at 25 pounds off, I looked great. I lost that little extra weight you gain when you do a project for 2 years and eat wrong. But it's the iceberg effect. I look normal and fine, but fat, whatever you see on the outside of your body, 2/3 of it's on the inside, like an iceberg in the water, right? So Kobe beef, it's delicious. It's a marbled fat. If you're fat on the outside, whatever you have, skinny people are fat too inside. There's all this marbleization. Remember, this doctor's dealing with heart disease and diabetes and things. There's fat in all of our insides, and that's what he's trying to counteract for a healthy life and a long-term living, right? My parents are 80, and their parents were 60 when they died. They're 80, but they're on medicines to stay alive, and I hope that we're 90 and 100 when we don't need those medicines if we're doing it right. So those are the fun facts. All right, here it is. Really, I tell you how to do it. We all know these things, right? 8 glasses of water. We've heard this for forever. I had a client who went to a seminar, spent $12,000 for 2 days. She came back and said, Tony, just drink 8 glasses of water. This is what she learned. I'm from L.A., a lot of healthy people in L.A. in their minds, and I followed them around, and nobody drinks more than 6 glasses of water a day. You can't do it unless you're actively trying to do it, because you're sipping. You're taking a big bottle of water, drinking it, maybe getting another one. So then you learn to drink water. Finally, you have to learn to eat water. I drink 3 glasses at a time. The Smart Water or other bottles about this tall, you down those like a gerbil and a Habitrail that you right down. Use like the beer bong principle, right? Just take it right down. It's amazing. So the technology or the science that this doctor developed is combinations matter, really. Carbs slow the metabolism. And so the body resets itself every 2 hours. So you should be eating food groups and combinations that allow the body to process every 2 hours. And then at night, it's in a streamlined fashion, and it will take all those amazing amino acids and everything else you ate and make building blocks and regenerate you in the morning. Pee it out and weigh yourself, and you'll be pounds lighter from once you've urinated. And I lost a pound a day for the first 3 months, and then half a pound after that, and then maintain. Turn the slide, please. So this is what I really learned. Nothing tastes as good as thin feels. Nothing. Nothing tastes as good as thin feels. When you revisit your favorite foods, all right, if you eat for the body, huge amounts of food. If you eat for the soul, very small amounts of food. I ate ice cream every other day, pizza every other day, but it's very little. The 3-bite rule, that's when you taste things. Turn the slide. So here it is really quickly. It's green, yellow, red, diet, maintain, bad. Next one. Just going to help you out with this real quick. It's an app. Pull it up. Search index all here. Go ahead. Next one. Well, it's blurry, but there's different categories, and pull it down. Next one. I never use those. I only use the search engine. Typed in the word. In fact, the search used to be at the bottom. They put it at the top for me. I asked them, why don't you put it on the front page? I spent half my day just going one layer over to get the search engine. I just want the search engine. I type in my own names. Go ahead. Next one. So it adds all these things up for you. You calculate it. You can have like 25 for breakfast and lunch. As you know, you can eat more at breakfast. You've got all day to process it. I think there was one more thing. After 6 o'clock, only half of what you ate. Next one, this is one glycol. You can have 25. Look at this now. If you can read this, this says a pound of meat, cheese, onions, lettuce, mayonnaise. Fat is fine within this system. And it's 2 points. You can have 25. Next one. All right, look at this. 1 ounce of corn chips is what it says. It's tortilla chip. Thrown onto that, 52, you've gained 2 pounds. You've gained 2 pounds in this system. It's one cracker, one thing, just one little carb just gums up the work. This is a race car. You're an engine. Your body wants to be processed. We eat all healthy. I'm sure obviously eat healthy and don't eat McDonald's and the food that makes middle America obese. But even if you're eating Whole Foods food, if you're eating the wrong combination, it's just adding to your body. I don't know if there's one more. Let's see. All right. Peace
out. So my name is Drew. I spent a long time in Boston. This is Fenway Park. They do a thing in Fenway Park where they sing. I need to advance it a little bit. Okay, here we go. Okay, so although I grew up in Boston, baseball was never my true love. The thing that I really love to watch is people playing video games, people who are very, very good at playing video games. They don't play in Fenway Park. They play in stadiums that look like this. This is the Key Arena in Seattle. I wasn't here, sadly, but you can see there's like a stage up there. There's 5 people on each team. There's a bunch of screens and a lot of people watching. The game that they play looks like this. That guy there earned $1 million by being right there and clicking a button. It was amazing. It was the $1 million dream coil, they called it. So when I watch this, I'm not there. It's not on TV. I watch on a site called Twitch. And the thing that's weird about Twitch is that when you're watching, there's a chat room. So it's not that... There's not a chat room in the way you're used to a chat room. There's not conversations going on here because there are tens to hundreds to many hundreds of thousands of people watching at the same time. So this is just a screenshot I took today, I think, and there's 20,000 people watching this right now. That's relatively low for these kinds of events. And when you get this many people together, they do all kinds of weird things. So they love to sing, so you can't hear it, but they're playing Let It Go on the audio track. And everybody just like spams the chat room, and they love these little graphical guys. That's the theme. And you see some people like trying other things, like they're trying to say "Let It Go, Bulba." That's the name of a player that they like. So there's this kind of like iteration that happens. People will shout things into the chat room. Some things take off, and you'll just see it scrolling like crazy. I have some screenshots of that later. But it's just like unbelievable, massive amounts of text, and it's often the same text or some like slight variant of the text. They also love to sing along with the song. This is a very simple song. I don't know if you know Sandstorm. There's this guy named Darude. It's like a late 90s techno kind of hit. Like no one really loves this song, but chat loves this song. And that's the refrain is do 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 do. And if you just watch, just like it flies by. It's a little weird. Chat also likes to dance. So people like copy and paste these weird like dancing emoticons in chat when music is playing. There's also, you'll see other people trying to chat in the middle, and like there's little crying faces. They're like complaining that this is what's happening in their chat room. There's also these like graphical emoticons that people really like. These are Twitch specific, but basically people on the screen have a cutout of this little image that happens in chat. And when it's on screen, then everybody just spams the chat room. They're like, I love that the image that I can make in the chat room is something that I can see on the video. Okay, so that's all just like weird, right? Now, what I think is really interesting about this is this question of spam versus what I think of as cheering. Like, I would basically place all of that behavior in the cheering category. It's like when people are at Fenway Park and they all know the words to the song, right? Like, they know what they're supposed to do as the crowd. And that's collective action, right? It's like people getting together and doing a thing at the same time. They all know what they're supposed to do. That feels great, right? Like, that's like a really primal human thing to do. But what's interesting is that in chat rooms, there's only one channel. Like, no one in a stadium is like, why are you singing along to this song? Like, I want to talk to my friend, and you're singing Sweet Caroline. Like, you're an asshole. Like, that's not what happens. But in the chat room, that happens constantly. And so there's this, like, really interesting social contest that goes on between people who want to spam chat like that and people who think that that's wrong, and they should have, like, a reasoned, like, discourse around the quality of the gameplay. And obviously the spammers win, but it's interesting to see how people construct like what it means to be in a chat room, right? Because we've been in chat rooms that have 100 people in them, and we have nice conversations, or 10 people, or whatever. Like, chat is as old as like computing technology. It's like the first thing people made when you had two people on a computer was, I want to talk to the other person. But something crazy happens when you put 100,000 people in a room, and you lose that ability, but you gain this other ability, which is we can all do the same thing at the same time, and we feel connected. I think that's awesome. So that's it.
Hi, I'm Gina. I'm going to teach you how to read tarot cards. My disclaimer, this is prediction, but it's not actually, the information is actually not for prediction. So most people think of tarot, they think of someone who looks like this. This is a depiction of a Roma woman, a gypsy, a fortune teller. But really, tarot come from tarocchi, a medieval Italian game that was essentially meant to carry around with you little life lessons. The tarot, it was instructional, it was reminders of life, and it was to help you learn to live a better life. 78 cards in a tarot deck. There were little pieces of art on each one of them. If that jack looked familiar, it's because our current playing cards, our poker cards, are derived from the tarocchi. We also get kings, queens, and aces from this game. The game emerged in the 15th century, and it's evolved a bit from there. So tarot was never set out to be a fortune-telling game. Rather, it was meant to tell people little things about life, about universal life, about everyone's life. So there are 4 suits in the tarot, in the minor arcana. The suits are cups, wands, coins, and swords, and those have equivalents to our current suits. For poker cards or playing cards, there would be hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades. But what I want you to think about as we go through the rest of the talk is that each of these symbols represented and meant something to people in medieval life. So clergy were represented by the love of the cups. The peasants were represented by the hard-working sticks and wands that were carried around. The emerging merchant class of early modern Italy was represented by the coins or pentacles. And then the nobility, the warriors and the kings and queens were represented by the power, literally, of the sword. When we think about the tarot, though, we think about these other cards that I'm sure many of you have seen and thought about or had some interaction with. Those cards that aren't represented on our plain deck. This is from the Tarot Sopraffino, actually a relatively late deck, an 1835 deck that was made in Milan. It was designed by Carlo della Rocca. I have a hand-painted reproduction of this deck, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But this is what we call the Major Arcana. Now, indulge me a moment. These are 22 cards that are supposed to represent the phases of life for medieval life. You start out the Fool in the beginning, and you go along life's journey. And these 21 different stops that the Fool makes on life's journey are supposed to represent things that happen to you in life. Now, literally, the early designers of the tarot have made, well, a little explanation for every single thing that can happen. So you can go through a transformation. You can encounter death. You can encounter calamity from above. You can understand love and happiness. And finally, you can come to some sort of acceptance of universality and the world. Literally, you can reach nirvana in this deck. And that's the goal of life. For medieval life, they would think you're actually getting to heaven. In the deck, it's represented as the world. You're literally in heaven on top of the world in this deck. So I have 2 decks with me today, and I asked 4 people, I will talk about them, to choose a card from the decks to show you how the tarot works. Now, my first deck is the Medieval Scampini. This is a very early deck. It's based on a 15th century deck, so it's based on one of the earliest decks that we have. The deck that it's based on is in the Pierpont Morgan Library, and it was... The deck itself was actually designed in 1985, so it's inspired by this 15th century. Oh, I've got 1 minute. Okay, Lily, 5 of Wands. Lily, this is a conflict card. There's some kind of competition. But 5 of Wands always teaches you there's much more to this competition. It's not as serious as you think. Lily had a question. I don't know what it is. Liz, 9 of Cups. 9 of Cups is about deep inner and outer peace and happiness with the world. It can be romantic, but really you are deeply, whatever this question is, it is very deeply at peace with the world. So I don't know what your question is, but 9 of Cups is great. You are in a great space, Liz. Elizabeth. Fabulous card. Il Bagatello, which is alternately the juggler or the magician, the trickster, but also highly, highly creative. So this is the first stop on the Fool's journey. It's both entertaining, but you learn something from this trickstery, huckstery. Whatever your question is, think about what it is you're juggling and think about what it is you can create and make. And finally, Linda, the Hanged Man, the lesson for all of you. The Hanged Man, the lesson for all of you. This looks like it's terrible, right? But look, he's smiling. It's not so bad. Hanged Man is at halfway in the Fool's journey, and it always reminds us that you should have a different perspective. I mean, look, he's hanging by his foot, for goodness sakes. You should always have a different perspective on your problem. So the Hanged Man encourages you to literally turn your perspective upside down. What do we learn from this? We should use stories as analysis, literally. We should be able to take stories from everyday life and think about the ways that they might apply to the current situation. sorry. We should marshal spurious correlation for good. So think about the ways in which we can take the elements around us and make into a better story for better prediction.
And those
Hey guys. So I'm going to tell you about this new project I'm working on, but first I need to tell you about an addiction I have, which is to Kickstarter. I've backed way too many projects on Kickstarter. I think it's up at about 130 projects right now. I've backed things like, here, go ahead and search for a hoverboard. Literally, like from the movie Back to the Future, the hoverboard. I've backed that on Kickstarter. Hasn't shipped yet. There we go. Yeah, this one, but it's okay. Search for finger surfing. You know when you put your hand outside the window of your car and the wind's going, you do this, right? It's literally a surfboard that you put on your fingers and surf outside your car, right? I backed that. They've shipped that. I own that. Go ahead and search for air umbrella. This is literally a stick you hold in your hand. There it is. And it blows the rain away, like straight up air. I have no idea how this is supposed to work. The English in it is questionable. It hasn't shipped yet either, but this was another one. And I've even backed, go ahead and search for desktop jellyfish tank. I've always loved jellyfish, and I thought, oh my God, here's my chance to own a jellyfish aquarium. And this was really cool, and they FedEx you jellyfish. The thing about jellyfish is they can't touch anything. If a jellyfish touches anything, it just shreds. So it runs on this principle called laminar flow. It shoots water up in a circle, and the jellyfish stay in the center. But holy crap, is there a giant design flaw. See these rocks at the bottom? Why would you put those there? So the jellyfish hit these rocks, and they just get obliterated. So much so that after they shipped me 10 different jellyfish to try to keep these things alive, a local San Francisco paper published a story called Local Startup Ships Jellyfish Slaughterhouse. Yeah, it was so bad. Okay, so that's part one of my story. Keep, sort of take that, put it in a box, and I'm going to tell you about part two. Part two is that you're done. That's all I need. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Yeah. Part two is that I'm a game designer. And for the last few years, I've designed some of the most ridiculous, most complicated games imaginable. It's like a sickness. Like these games are way, way, way too hard. I've designed games where the entire game was embedded inside a fireworks show. Literally, people had to go out and watch things explode in the sky and interpret the colors and orientation and shape of each firework to solve the puzzle. I designed a game once embedded inside a Nine Inch Nails album, and people had to literally go to Prague to see a Nine Inch Nails concert and then go to the men's bathroom where there were little USB sticks taped to the insides of the urinals, like stupid, crazy, complicated, dumb things. And that was sort of a former life of mine. Now, I've got this new mantra I've been telling all my friends. Nothing is too simple. There is no such thing as too simple. I want to design games that are so simple and beautiful that they signify this shift for me. And I keep talking about Kickstarter. So a friend of mine came to me and he said, I've got it. This is the simplest game there is. I was like, yeah, well, sure. Hard to get repeat customers, but very, very simple indeed. And he said, no, we're going to play this with cards. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to take a deck of cards, and we're going to put a single joker inside the deck and put it down on the table. And we're each going to take turns drawing from this deck. And whoever draws the joker dies. And you're out, and the other guy wins. And I thought, it turns out there is such thing as too simple. That's no fun at all. So, but he insisted, and we tried it, and it turns out it was no fun at all. So, there was something really special about this, though, and we decided to keep tinkering with it and try to figure out, like, how do you make this more fun? Like, what if instead of having to draw a card, you could play a card that would let you look at the top 3 cards of the deck before you drew one? Now you have a slight chance of knowing where that joker is, and hopefully not draw it. okay, we're getting somewhere now. What if there was another card you could play that lets you skip your turn? So you see what the top card is. Oh my goodness, there's the Joker. You play this other card, and your friend has to go instead. Well, what if there was another card where he could then play and shuffle the deck before drawing? What if there was another card that reversed the order? What if there was another card? On and on this went as we started to build strategies around this game. And we assigned each of these special powers to these cards, and it started to get really cool. Like the 10 had a special power in the Jack and the Queen and the King. And we're like, all right, we're ready to put this up on Kickstarter. Until I woke up one morning and realized what we're literally doing with a regular deck of cards is just giving you a rule set. We're literally trying to raise $10,000 on Kickstarter for a piece of paper. And I thought, once again, it is possible to be too simple. So instead of publishing that game, I thought, what we need to do is create a custom deck of cards. What if we put the rules for what each card does on the card itself? Then we're dealing with something pretty cool, and we started printing out some prototype decks. And the next part of the story is with the Oatmeal. Do you guys know the Oatmeal, the online comic, the Oatmeal? Yeah. So this guy here, this is one of my favorites. I'll let it sink in. Go ahead. Yeah. So everything on the Oatmeal is drawn by a guy named Matt Inman, who's an incredible, hilarious, creative mastermind. And I've been a huge fan of his forever. And so I went to him and said, I need 5 minutes of your time. You have to try this crazy, silly game that I just created with a friend of mine. And he said, sure, I've got 5 minutes. Let's do it. We played the game for 5 minutes. As soon as it was over, he said, I want to play again. Very good sign. We played it again. 2 hours go by. We're just playing and playing and playing. And he really fell in love with the game. And he said, listen, there's two things. One, I have a book publishing deal coming up in about 2 months, and I owe this new manuscript, and I'll tell you what, I will call my publisher right now and cancel that if you let me illustrate the cards for this game. Just as a side note, when Matthew Inman makes that offer to you, the correct answer is hell yes. And the second thing he said was, we have to change the name of your game. Right now it's called Bomb Squad. We have to change the name to something like Exploding Kittens because I'm really good at drawing cats. So the final part of my story is we've been working on this for a few months now, and we are putting up a Kickstarter page next week. I think maybe Brady is perhaps the only person on earth who has seen this video, but I'm going to show you guys for the very first time ever so you can see this insane thing we've been up to. Is there... Yeah, okay, hold on. Let me go full screen and back up. So, come on.
Hi there, my name is Matthew Inman. I make the Oatmeal, and this is Elon Lee and Shane Small. They make really cool games. The three of us got together and created a new card game called Exploding Kittens. Here's how the game works. You set our deck of cards face down and take turns drawing until one of you draws the Exploding Kitten card. Whoever draws the Exploding Kitten card explodes, they are dead, and they are out of the game. Unless that player has a defuse card, which can defuse the kittens using things like laser pointers, kitten therapy, and catnip sandwiches. In addition, there are various action cards which can be used to move, mitigate, or avoid the kittens throughout the game, such as skipping your turn by wearing a portable cheetah butt, attacking other players by deploying the 1,000-year back hair, picking a card from the draw pile by rubbing the belly of a pigacorn, or seeking out the wisdom of an all-seeing goat wizard. You can also deploy the Taco Cat, Aber Crab Lincoln, magical meat bikinis, and a fearsome Catarwalkie. To win this highly strategic, kitty-powered version of Russian roulette, you have to decide which cards to play, when to play them, and which of your opponents to target. The gameplay allows you to develop fun or cruel strategies against one another. The game is kid-friendly, super fun, and super easy to learn. But that doesn't mean Exploding Kittens is simple. With every card you draw, you increase your chances of getting one of the Exploding Kittens and being booted from the game. The longer you play, the greater your odds of exploding and the more tense the game gets. So, if you're the type of person who's into games, kittens, laser beams, Sasquatches, explosions, enchiladas, and sometimes goats, please back our Kickstarter. In exchange, we'll send you our game. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So that's been sort of the whole journey. What you guys can do, the very first prototype deck just finished printing. I'm having it FedExed here tomorrow morning if anyone wants to play. And what you guys can do to help me, because this hasn't actually launched yet, is go to explodingkittens.com and just follow us on Twitter, and that's where we'll make some announcements about when it goes live. That's it. Thanks, guys.
So awesome.
Okay, everybody stand up, get in a big circle. I know there's furniture in the way, but we can move it. Standing, standing, standing. Bring your drink. That's fine. This is an exercise in grade school. Everybody, eye contact. Yeah, we're going to hold the parachute in just a moment. Get ready for the parachute. Sure, hold hands. If you want to hold hands, you hold hands. I like that. Everybody hold hands. Come on in, hold hands. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Everybody coming down. Oh, guys, come on down. Alexis, come on down. Yeah, we need you. We need you. Is anybody behind the pole, Gloria? Okay. Oh, this is lovely. Isn't this just beautiful? This was worth it. This was worth it. Okay. This guy, I managed to wrangle him as my teaching assistant. So Jeff Hancock will be my teaching assistant today. Thank you, everybody. My name is Liz. Oh, yeah, come on in. Join the love. Thank you. Okay. So I asked to go after Evan because I love Exploding Kittens. And the reason I love it is, one, it's going to be a great game. But secondly, it kind of started off as a half-baked idea. And he shared it with a few people, put it out there. And now it's something that's going to be real, right? Where's Evan? I'm looking for you. Where are you? Avon! You know, Exploding Kittens. That's what I remembered, right? That's important. Okay. Sorry, Alon. I even had a conversation with him. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so here's how it's going to work. You can let go of each other's hands, although it's really cute. Somebody made that suggestion. Okay, we could do a squeeze. But here's how it's going to work. This is the way it's going to work. Is when I look around this room, part of my research and my passion is trying to figure out, okay, hold hands again, is half-baked. I love when people have kind of half-baked ideas they're not quite sure what to do with. And when other people jump up and say, I can help you with that half-baked idea, or let's just discuss it. Let's see what it's about. And so I'm going to take advantage of the untapped resources in this room. And right now, all of you committed earlier to having kind of a dream, maybe a half-baked idea. It's not quite ready. Jeff is going to run around to the first 10 people that raise their hands. This is an opportunity not to be missed. Oh, boy. Or we'll just make all of you do it. We just didn't have enough time. Okay. Half-baked idea, you're going to get a napkin that says, I have a dream on it. Dreams? Anybody a dream? You're gonna get that much closer to getting your dream realized if you raise your hand. Yeah, have a dream, Sonny. Thank you. Dream. Let's stream it. We did. We just heard your dream. I know. We're gonna help you out tomorrow by tweeting you and following you. Alon, I'm so sorry. Alon. Okay, great. We got a few more dreams. Okay, here's how it's gonna happen. We're gonna start with Mimi. Mimi is very. Oh. Yeah, we're going to start with you. Mimi is going to very, very quickly, emphasis on quick, state, yeah, exactly, 2 minutes. We're going to get through as many people as we can. No, I know. Listen, I've done, I got it. You got to go really quickly, say what your dream is, super quick. Anybody that can help Mimi in any way possible is going to help. Or you're going to raise your hand and say, Alon, I can help you. Okay, go. It's like a talk show. You got to go quick.
To launch Exploding Kittens on Kickstarter.
Okay, everybody's going to donate. You got it. Good. Okay, Mimi.
Fine. To launch Camp Minecraft on Kickstarter.
Okay, you're following up. When you raise your hand, you're talking to her during dinner, yeah? Okay, that's the commitment. Who else has a dream? Julian.
Start a bicycle parts company.
Yeah. Okay, I like the claps, but we need some commitment. My hand's up.
Start a bicycle parts company.
Katie, how are you going to help?
I'm going to connect him to, what's his name? Yeah, my guy. Icon 44. Icon 4x4 in LA, so he's going to have a space.
Okay, Katie's going to get him space. Anybody else going to help him? Andres?
I'm going to buy parts.
Okay, Andres going to buy parts. Okay, great. You got a space and one consumer. Awesome. Okay, Elizabeth.
I want to work with Dan on solving that literacy problem.
Ooh. I can help. Dan! How are you going to help Elizabeth?
I'll teach her everything I know about literacy.
When?
Now.
Okay, now. Over dinner. I teach you. Good. Okay, it's important to be specific, so you really follow through. Who's the next person? Who's got a napkin? Liz, how am I doing? Half a second? A minute. Matt.
I want to build a platform where people can
digitally type up their dreams and set them free, and then following actual wind patterns in the world, they'll float around the world, and you can reach into the air and pick up someone else's dream.
Whoa, who's going to help Matt? That's exciting. Who knows something about weather? Yeah, digital technology. Nate, what are you going to do to help?
I've already done a project to fly like special messages from prisoners as paper airplanes, and we can use similar methodologies.
Okay, you're set, Matt. Amanda, you're next.
Okay, so I have some friends who run a school in a slum in Bangkok, and I would like to help them build and staff a hackerspace there.
Whoa. Okay, Mimi, how are you going to help? Amanda, this is where I'm wearing running shoes.
It's just awesome, so it has to happen.
How are you going to help her concretely?
We'll talk.
She's going to talk to you. Okay. I trust her. Okay. Ooh.
I want a project on cloud. I want a project on the cloud that is... Yes. Yes.
He wants to project something onto a cloud. Who's going to help you? Sonny, how are you going to help him?
I'm going to help him because Sam Van Aken in Syracuse has been making clouds and opening them up with, yes, amazing, makes things rain with beautiful clouds.
All about public commitment. That's awesome. Thanks, Sonny. Okay, who's the next one? Okay, last dream. Liz, we're done on time.
I want to visit all 7 continents.
She wants to visit, Kate wants to visit all 7 continents. Come on, come on. Who can help her? Who can help her?
Antarctica. I can teach Kate how to write an NSF proposal to get to Antarctica.
Hey, Gina's going to write an NSF proposal for her. And our final dream.
I want to create a tool to help patients communicate with their doctors.
Ooh, Gina wants to create a tool to help patients communicate with their doctors. Where's our doctor? Where's our ER doc? Where are you? Sorry to put you on the spot, but can you help her? Okay, Brad.
Yes, we can talk afterwards.
Okay, Brad's going to be your doctor. Oh, and Yuri's going to help you too. Awesome. Okay, so when I do this, when I've done this before, you go around typically, and it's very powerful to go around, but I'm trying to honor the time. Alex.
I want to finish my dissertation quickly.
Alex wants to finish his dissertation quickly. Oh, Gina.
I will be Alex's dissertation coach.
Wow. Okay, and a applause. Liz, thank you for that moment. I encourage you really in the spirit of sharing your half-baked or real dreams, taking advantage of this amazing community. I'm blown away by the openness of this community, sharing your ideas even if they're not completely formed, and seeing what kind of resources people have to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great, everybody. Awesome. We have more of them tomorrow.